Shalom, Shalom, Israel. Right? First and foremost, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh. Ba'ashima Mashiach Umarak Yahushua. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father, which the world calls God. And Yahushua is the name of his only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. First, I want to give a strong shalom to all the mighty men. They're going out there laboring. They're presenting their bodies as a living sacrifice. They're doing all they can to wake up the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And during the elements, the 100-degree weathers, the freezing below codes, and everything that's trying to hinder the work of the Most High, Shalom, Shalom. I want to give another strong shalom to all the mighty Akwath, the sisters that are at home, but they're reverencing their husbands. They're being teachers of good things, tender, delicate, and on fire for the Most High God. Last but not least, I want to give another strong shalom to all the mighty children and teenagers in this truth as well, but they're doing all they can to make their calling and election sure in the last days, Most High willing. Right, Brother Tazamai? And we coming at you with another cold cut, and the topic of this cold cut is titled, right, Mathew chapter 24, the Olivet, Discourse, and more prophecy. Right, Mathew chapter 24, the Olivet Discourse, plus more prophecy. So we're going to be going over Matthew chapter 24 through the Spirit. Right, we might touch on the sayings of Yahushua, right? Touch on the parable of the fig tree, right? We might pull up some maps, some timelines, so we could be able to understand what the Lord was talking about or speaking about in this passage that a lot of Christians are familiar with, or people in general, leading up to his crucifixion, right? So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Right, this is Matthew chapter 24 and verse number 1. Right, Matthew chapter 24 and verse number 1. It reads, "And Yahushua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to shew him the buildings of the temple." Now, during this time, Yahushua, he's about to tell the disciples, right, the downfall of Jerusalem, right? Jerusalem was prophesied to be destroyed by the Romans, not only by Yahushua, but it was just set up for it to happen. And during this time, you had something called Herod's temple. You had a lot of temples that we had, right? You had the temple of King Solomon that was built up during his time, during the time of King Solomon, right? Which got destroyed by the Babylonians. Nevertheless, you had something called, right, Herod's temple. Right, so I want to pull this up real fast. You got something called the Rose Bible charts, maps, and timelines. Right, the Rose Bible charts, maps, and timelines. And within these things is information, so you could be able to get a visual. Right, I don't have a computer right now, so I'm not able to pull it up on the screen. So we pretty much gonna show you what the disciples seen, what they were talking about during the time in the ancient world, right? So this is something called Herod's temple. If you got this, right, and so on page 146, right? If you got this, it's on page 146. So as you can see right here, this was Herod's temple. All right. This was Herod's temple, or the temple that was around during the time of the New Testament. Right. You can read about it in Acts chapter 3 as well. But you got the different layout during the time of Yahushua and the disciples. Right. You see what they have on there. So this is what Peter and the apostles were talking about, right? You got the Nicanor gate, you got the sanctuary, you got the women's courts with the different precepts on it. So this is definitely a good book to invest in with more information on it, right? I don't know if brothers could see this or sisters could see this, but this is some very important information to be able to go into. All right. Or you could look it up on Google as well. Right. But definitely some important information here. So I want to read that again. Right. I'm going to show it up one more time for a visual. Right. One more time for the visual. Right, so let's go back to Matthew chapter 24. Let's see this. Right, this is Matthew chapter 24 and verse number 1. And Yahushua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to shew him the buildings of the temple. Right, and Yahushua said unto them, see not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. Right? It says, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. Right? So Yahushua, he told his disciples to look at the temple, look at the layout, right? How beautiful it was, things like that. But Yahushua, what he was speaking of was the destruction of Jerusalem coming to the Jews, right, Salakia, in 70 AD, right? You had something called the Roman-Jewish Wars, where you had Domitian and Titus. They helped besiege Jerusalem or sack Jerusalem, all right? So around this time, he's saying all of these buildings that you're seeing, it's going to be thrown down, man. And it's kind of similar to how America is going to be destroyed. All of these tall buildings, the skyscrapers, the big monuments, when it's time for destruction, Jacob's trouble, the great tribulation, as we might read on, as it's time for these different things, a lot of these buildings, these big monuments, these skyscrapers, hey, all of these things are going to be destroyed, man. These big buildings that you might see as a little kid, these things are prophesied to go down. And that's what Yahushua was doing for telling the siege of Jerusalem. Long behold, it came to pass. Right? So that Yahushua, he was actually a prophet through the Spirit. Let's go to that in Matthew chapter 26. Right? Let's go to Matthew chapter 26. And Matthew chapter 21. This Matthew chapter 21 and verse number 46, right? Matthew chapter 21 and 46, it reads, but when they sought to lay hands on him, they feared the multitude because they took him for a prophet. Right? So the Pharisees, they didn't want to lay hands on Yahushua or kill him, lest there be an uproar amongst the people. Right? The people start to kill him because the people took Yahushua for a prophet, man. Some people thought he was Jeremiah back on the earth. Some people thought he was Elijah back on the earth. Right? So it's certain things that Yahushua prophesied it to happen, and it actually came to pass in history. Right? Let's go to the book of Matthew chapter. Let's jump up to verse 11. Matthew chapter 21 and 11. And the multitude said, this is Yahushua, the prophet of Nazareth of Galilee. Right? Let's go to Luke chapter 7. It's the book of Luke chapter 7 and verse 16. And there came a fear on all, and they glorified God, saying that a great prophet is risen up among us, and that God had visited his people. So that's what the people were saying, man. They said, hey, guess what? A prophet is risen up amongst us. Who is this man right here? How is he doing these things? They took him for a prophet, But again, Yahushua, he foretold the destruction of Jerusalem before it happened. All right. He prophesied, as we read on in Matthew 24, it's a lot of prophecies that he said that has come to pass and that is still yet to come to pass. Right? So let's continue on in Matthew chapter 24. Right? It's Matthew chapter 24 and verse number 3. Right? This Matthew chapter 24 and verse number 3. It reads, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? Right? So Matthew chapter 24 and verse 3, a lot of scholars call this the Olivet Discourse, right? Or the Olivet prophecy, where when Yahushua was on the Mount of Olive, which is right outside of Jerusalem and between Jerusalem and Bethany geographically, and he was telling the disciples things that must surely come to pass, that's going to lead up to his second coming. So Yahushua, he gave, in this Bible, he gave you signs. He gave you tokens to watch out for. He gave you these certain things, and you have to be able to, you have to be like the disciples, man. You have to say, hey, Lord, when is going to be thy coming? Right? When are these prophecies going to start rolling? When are you going to come back and save your elect? And the disciples asked that in Acts, the 1st chapter. Right? When is the kingdom going to be restored into Israel again? When are these things going to be happening? And we have to have the same spirit of the disciples so we could have our mind occupied on the prophecies. Right? So let's go to Sirach chapter 39. Let's get some precepts on that. Let's go to Sirach chapter 39. So they asked the Lord, when is the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? You have people in the world, they asking that as we speak. When is the end of the world going to be? Right? When is this place going to go down? When is all hell going to break loose? Right? Let's go to Sirach chapter 39. It's the book of Sirach chapter 39 and verse number 1. It reads, but he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancients, and be occupied in prophecies. So a man that gives his mind solely to the law, right, not to foolishness, not to wickedness, madness, right, and he's meditating in the precepts, hey, that man, he's gonna ask about the signs of the times, because it's mentioned of in the scriptures, right? It's certain things in this Bible that deals with heavy eschatology, that deals with heavy end time prophecies, destruction, chaos happening, evil events, right? And a wise man, when you read this, he's gonna be occupied in the prophecies. Okay, this prophecy come to pass. All right, when is this prophecy coming to pass? Right, no food on the shelves. All right, a lot of people are dying. Okay, men are being beheaded for the word of God. All right, this links up with this. And he's gonna be meditating, he's gonna be ready, man. He's gonna be mentally prepared for the end of the world. So that's the saying that the disciples, they were occupied in prophecies. Right, let's go to 2nd Esdras, chapter 6. Right, because Esdras, he said the same thing. Let's go to 2nd Esdras, chapter 6, and verse number 7. Right? I'm going to start at verse 6. 2nd Esdras 6 and 6. Then did I consider these things, and they all were made through me alone, and through none other. By me also shall they be ended, and by none other. So the Most High created everything. Everything's going to be ended by the Most High God. It reads, then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? Or when shall the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? So guess what, Esdras? He asks for when is all hell gonna break loose, man? Right? When is it gonna be the end of the world? When are these prophecies gonna? When is gonna be the parting asunder of times? Right? And that's what a wise man and a wise woman is gonna ask, because everybody knows that it's to everything there's a beginning and an end. Right? The greatest things have to come to an end. America has to come to an end. Ancient Greece, eventually it had to come to an end, man. The Roman Empire, eventually it had to come to an end. Right? The Babylonian Empire, all of these different things have to come to an end, man. It has an end date. And Esdras, he's asking about these tokens. Right? Let's go to the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 9. Right? Let's go to 2nd Esdras, chapter 9, and verse number 5. It reads, for like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning. A lot of things have a beginning. A flower before it goes into a tree. Right? A tornado before it forms into a tornado. A hurricane. I mean, man in general, you're formed in a womb. A lot of these different things, they have a beginning. Right? It reads, and the end is manifest. See that? So everything has a beginning and an end. And right now, you living in the end of the world. Right now, the end is made manifest. Let's go to 2nd Esdras chapter 4 and 45. Right, this is 2nd Esdras chapter 4 and 45. And I said, as thou hast said unto thy servant, that thou givest life to all, hast given life once to the creature that thou hast created, and the creature bear it, even so it might now also bear them that now be present at once. Right? Jumping down, it's like that's 2nd Esdras chapter 5. 2nd Esdras chapter 4 and 45. Right? 2nd Esdras chapter 4 and 45. It reads, shew me then whether there be more to come than past, or past then is to come. So Esdras saying, guess what? Show me how much time do we have left, man? Right? How much time do we have left before the Lord makes his second coming? Show me the end. It reads, 46, what is past I know, but what is for to come I know not. And he said unto me, stand upon the right side, and I shall expound a similar unto you. So I stood and saw, and behold, an hot burning oven passed before me. And it happened that when the flame was going by, I still looked, and behold, the smoke still remained still. After this, there passed by before me a watery cloud, and sent down much rain with a storm. And when the storm rain was past, the drops still remained still. Then said he unto me, consider with thyself, as the rain is more than the drops, and as the fire is greater than the smoke, but the drops and the smoke remain behind, so the quantity is past, did more exceed. Then I prayed and said, may I live, thinkest thou, until that time? So hey, Esdras was on fire. He asking more and more and more questions. Uriel told him it's more time past than it is left. So we don't have that much time left. And this was during the time of the Medo-Persian Empire. So how much more in 2023 AD? It remains, what? Esau even says this, now that's not literal, we don't know that. But Esau says it's 30 seconds left to doomsday. So we in the last seconds in this thing. But Esdras, he's saying, hold on, may I live? Thinkest thou? What time or what shall happen to me? What shall happen in those days? So Esdras like, hold on, am I going to be alive? Right? Am I still going to, and that might be you. You might be feeling like that. Am I still going to be in this truth when these things come to pass? Am I going to be alive? Right? Am I going to be destroyed? Am I going to die? What's going to happen? Read on verse 52. He answered me and said, as for the tokens whereof thou askest me, I may tell thee of them in part, meaning the signs, but as touching thy life, I am not sent to shew it, for I do not know it. So the angel told Esdras, guess what? I could show you the signs of the times. I could show you the end of the world, right? I could show you when these things are going to go down. But concerning your life, what's going to happen? Guess what? I don't know. It's up to the Most High God, right? So this the mindset. We have to be in a mindset of the disciples, right? So let's go back to Matthew chapter 24, right? Let's go to Matthew chapter 24 and verse 3 again. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us then, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world? And Yahushua answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. So the very first token that he showed at the disciples was, take heed that no man deceive you. Meaning, don't let anybody manipulate you through deception. Why? Because in the last days, it's going to be a lot of deception going on in the world. Deception is at an all-time high. You know how many people get deceived just off of social media? Right? Just off Facebook alone. You know how many people get deceived? Millions of people. Through TikTok, these different media apps, the internet. Millions of people get deceived every day. So one of the first things are the signs of Yahushua. He said, take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. So one of the signs is, which is happening as we speak, you're going to have people, they're going to be saying they're the Messiahs. Right? I'm Yahushua back on the earth. Right? Hey, you got to bow, you got to follow me. Hey, where is that at in the Bible, man? The Lord already told us what's going to be what it says when he returns, every eye is going to see him. Hey, about 2 weeks ago at camp, you had this Edomite come up and say, I am the Messiah. And then he just peeled off and left. Hey, so we know that man. Hey, we know that man don't know what's going on. Right? We know that man not Yahushua. He don't even fit the description mentioned in Revelation chapter 1. Daniel chapter 10 and 5. He said, hey, I'm the Messiah. You had this man by the name of Yaju. Right? I wish we could pull it up. Nevertheless, you had this man called Yaju. And it's literally people following him right now. And they believe that that's Mashiach Malak Yahushua. Hey, that's off, man. Let me read that again. It says, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And you have actual people thinking that's Yahushua. Right? Let's go to Revelation chapter 1. Right? Let's go to Revelation chapter 1 and verse number 7. Right? This is the book of Revelation chapter 1 and verse 7. Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him. Talking about Yahushua. And they also which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. Even so, amen. So when the Lord returns, every eye is going to see him. It's not going to be a Messiah in this part of the earth. Then the whole world doesn't know at all. No, it don't go down like that. Or you got people saying the Messiah, he's in Africa right now. Literally walking around healing people. Well, it's not scripture. The Lord already told you many people, they're going to come in my name. They're going to be saying that I am Christ. They're going to be saying that I am the Messiah. But the Lord said, take heed that no man deceive you. Why? Because you're going to have the people out here deceiving other people. Let's go to 2 Timothy. Right? Let's go to 2 Timothy chapter 3. Right? Let me see what else that I want. This 2 Timothy chapter 3 and verse number 13. Right? 2 Timothy 3 and 13. It reads, but evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. Right? I'm going to read that again. But evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. See that? So the Lord already, if you're an evil man and a seducer, you're going to wax worse and worse and worse. You're going to be deceiving people with lies. Not only that, though, you're going to be being deceived. So it's a lot of the, and that's one of the so-called white man's tactics is deception. That's one of Satan's tactics on the left-hand side is what? Deception. He might make things appear, but it's not what it really seems. Right? Satan, he's an illusionist. He's an illusionist, man. A lot of things here is an illusion. Right? Now, I don't know how those people, I don't know how they follow him. Right? I'm going to say because they don't know the Bible. Right? Because they don't know the precepts. Because they not grounded. But I don't know how you following a literal Edomite, man. Or a man that's saying he's the Messiah. Why? Because the Lord already gave certain, literally, damn signs for you to know that he's the Messiah. Right? So I'm getting confused just talking about it. But you literally have actual people, they're following this man by the name of Yaju. You could look him up, right? His name is Yaju. And people, they following this man. Right? And they actually believe that that's Christ. Right? So let's go back. Let's go to Job chapter 12. And believe it or not, the Most High, he put deceivers on the earth for a reason. All right? The Most High created these deceivers. These false prophets. Right? These pastors. Hey, guess what? The Most High, he did that, man. These wolves in sheep's clothing. Let's go to Job chapter 12 and verse 16. So guess what? You want to take heed that no man deceive you. And that goes for anybody. That's not just going for false Christ. That's going for man in general. If they speak not according to this word, let's get that real fast. The classic. Hey, guess what? We can't believe it. It's no light in them. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 8 and verse number 20. Isaiah chapter 8 and verse number 20. To the law and to the testimony. If they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. So if somebody's not speaking according to this word, they not going according to the precepts, they don't have no understanding, and we not believing them, man. Neither are we taking heed to them, lest we should be the ignorant and we should be deceived. Right? So let's go to Job chapter 12 and 16. This Job chapter 12 and verse number 16. With him is strength and wisdom. Talking about the Most High. The deceived and the deceiver are his. So the Most High created the man that's doing the deceiving on the earth. And the Most High God actually created the man that's being deceived. All of them go back to the hand of the Most High God. Right? Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 11. Right? Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse number 3. It reads, but I fear, lest by any means, as the serpent beguiled Eve through his subtlety. Right? Because the serpent deceived Eve in the garden. Through great subtlety. That was beautiful subtlety done. Right? But guess what? The Most High had that happen for a reason. And the Lord created the serpent in the garden. right? But it says, as the serpent, but I fear lest by any means, as the serpent beguiled Eve through his subtlety, so your minds should be corrupted from the simplicity that is in Christ. So you don't want to have anybody corrupt your minds, right? You don't want to have nobody, but there's a lot of people, they out here being beguiled, man. Being tricked, just like the serpent tricked Eve, right? Let's go to the book. Right, let's go back to Matthew chapter 24, right? So that's one of the first things mentioned of in the Olivet Discourse is take heed that no man deceive you, right? Let's go back to that Matthew chapter 24 and verse number 5. I'm going to start at verse 4. Matthew chapter 24 and 4. And Yahushua answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. Right? And you're going to know when, again, you're going to know when Yahushua returns. Because he told you. All you have to do is crack open this Bible and read. Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. For none of these things shall fail, none shall with her mate. Let's jump down to Matthew chapter 24 and verse number 24. I'm going to start at verse 23. Matthew chapter 24 and 23. Then if any man say unto you, lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. So if somebody's on the earth, they saying Yahushua is over here, hey, that's going to be going on. You're going to have, in Jacob's trouble, you're going to have brothers saying, hey, Yahushua over here, man. He over here saving people. Let's go. Then he down take you into the mountains. But whole time Esau's right there with a FEMA camp ready to snatch you up and put you in jail. And that's your judgment because you didn't listen to the precepts. And Yahushua told the disciples himself, guess what? Anybody saying they Christ, don't believe him. They saying he's over here. They saying he's over there. You got women following that man. Right? They want to be married to that Yaju man because they think that's the Lord and Savior. Right? That's off. I'm going to read that again. It says, then if any man say unto you, lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not, meaning don't believe these men. Right? Don't believe these women. For there shall arise false Christ and false prophets, and shall shew great signs and wonders, and so much that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. For as lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even to the west, so also shall the coming of the Son of Man be. So what he's saying is, just like you can see lightning go from one end to the other, that's how the coming is going to be a grand entrance when the Lord returns. When you see lightning in the sky, that's a beautiful entrance. The Lord just having lightnings. That's how you're going to know. Hey, that's how the Lord is. He's going to turn back glorious. You're going to, what it's saying, you're going to see it. Right? Everybody's going to see. We just read that in Revelation 1 and 7. So if somebody, you're going to have, and it's sad to say, you're going to have people doing that. They doing it now, and it's going to increase more and more in Jacob's trouble. But you might have that one brother that's an evil man. He's subtle. Right? Then he say, hey, man. Hey, Yahushua, he over here feeding people with food. Right? I know you haven't eaten in about a couple days. Hey, the Lord over here feeding people just like he did. Hold on, brother. It's in Matthew chapter 14. Just like he did the first time. Hey, Yahushua, he's doing it all over again. Then that one brother, you say, right? Well, yeah, that is right. Matthew chapter 14, the Lord did feed over 5,000 people. Yeah, you know what? I am hungry. I could go for a burger. Then that man, he's going to follow that man into the desert. Ultimately, he might be destroyed, man. Why? Because he got deceived. So you want to take heed that no man deceive you, especially when people saying that they're the Messiah themselves. I mean, that's just, we know it's a lie. But you have something called Project Blue Beam, which the so-called white man that's came out with. He's still working on it, where it's gonna be real life visuals in the sky. And Esau, he may have it seem like it is Yahushua. He might put the damn beams up, and the so-called black man, he's coming back with a sword in his hand. And then Esau might even have a UFO. He might watch one of our videos. Then he might have the UFOs all over. Hey, somebody might really think that's Yahushua. But look, man, the Lord told you. I'm going to read that again. Matthew chapter 24 and verse 27. For as the lightning cometh out of the east and shineth even unto the west, shall also shall the Son of Man, the coming of the Son of Man be. So you're going to know when it's going to happen, man. You don't want to let no man deceive you. Right? So let's go to Matthew chapter 24 and let's read number 6. Let's read on. Matthew chapter 24 and verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. So another thing the Lord told the disciples, guess what? And he's ultimately speaking now, right? He's ultimately speaking during the times we living in now. That's why you see wars. It's not even rumors of wars happening anymore. A rumor is something that might not be true. Or China might invade Taiwan. That's a rumor. But if, let's say, China do invade Taiwan, guess what? It literally happened. It's not a rumor anymore. So you're going to see and hear rumors of war. You're going to see wars and hear rumors of wars. We heard that Russia was going to invade Ukraine. Long behold, guess what? The Most High God, he had it happen on a physical level. So we're living in these times right now. The Lord said, hold on, don't be troubled, because hey, this not even the end. The end is not yet. Reading on verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. Let's go to 2nd Esdras chapter 3. Right? It's like your 2nd Esdras chapter 13. The Lord said it's going to be wars and rumors of wars. What is that talking about? Let's go to it. All right, let's go to 2nd Esdras chapter 13. Right, this 2nd Esdras chapter 13 and verse number 31. It reads, and one shall undertake to fight another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, and one realm against another. And the time shall be when these things come to pass, and the sign shall happen, which I shewed thee before. Then shall my son be declared, whom thou saw as the man ascending. So when you read 2nd Esdras chapter 13, Esdras, he's seen the in-depth vision of the second coming of Yahushua. He's seen Yahushua coming on a big mountain, which is a chariot, right? Coming to save his people and to destroy and burn up the heathen. Nevertheless, he's saying before this happens, one people shall rise up against another, one realm against another, one city against another. It's the same thing that Yahushua is talking about in Matthew chapter 24. It's all the same spirit. It's just different ministries. For example, Daniel, it's some things that's mentioned in Daniel. You might read Revelation. Hold on, it's saying the same thing in Daniel. Right? Ezekiel, he's saying it's the same thing in Micah. Right? Because a lot of the prophets, they seen the same thing It just was given to him in a different way. Right? So Yahweh Shah, it's the same thing in Matthew chapter 24 and 7. So one people, they're gonna fight against another people, man. Not to mention, you're still gonna have race wars coming. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 13. You're gonna have it's gonna be the Moabites against the Edomites. But modern day, it's gonna be China versus America, man. Right? It's gonna be Ammon against the Edomites. But modern day is gonna be Japan against Esau. Or it might be Ammon against Moab. But modern day is China versus this city right here, Japan, North Korea, South Korea, right? Ishmael versus Esau. So it's one people literally fighting against another. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 13. So it's a lot of wars that's going to take place, and wars, it takes years for wars to happen. Wars is not just a 2-day process. Some wars take over 20 years, man. Some wars take for 6 months to happen and for it to be complete. Right? China and not China, but Russia and Ukraine happened last year. Guess what? It's still taking place right now. So these things take time. But the Lord said, and patience possess ye your souls. So let's go to Isaiah chapter 13. Right, this is the book of Isaiah chapter 13 and verse number 14. Right? Isaiah 13 and 14. You're going to have another war you're going to have in the last days is race wars. This Isaiah chapter 13 and 15. Every one that is found shall be thrust through, and every one that is joined. I'm going to start at verse 14. And it shall be as the chase row, as when a sheep that no man taketh up, they shall every man turn to his own people, and flee every one into his own land. Right? So the destruction of ancient Babylon, it's like a prototype of the destruction that's going to happen in Babylon right now. Right? You're going to have the Medes. You're going to have the Medes all over again. Because the Medes took down the Babylonians. Right? In 539 BC. Guess what? You're going to have another Medes. They're going to take down the Babylonians now. So during this process, every man, they're going to turn to their own people, man. Right? Esau, he's not going to be with Jake no more. He's not going to be hanging around with Jake no more. Esau's might get drafted to the military. You're going to have the Proud Boys, the Boogaloo Boys, skinheads, biker gangs. Hey, we was at camp last week, and you had a bunch of Edomites just rolled through. Prideful. It was all a part of a biker gang. And they was just watching Jake downtown do wickedness. Right? You have Edomites right now, as I'm speaking, they're training their 5-year-old son how to shoot an AR in the woods right now. They're getting prepared for war. As we speak, you can look these things up. Right? So every man, Esau, he's going to go back to his own people. Chinese man, he's going to go back to his own people. Right? Arabs, they're going to go back to their own people. But out of the mess of that, you still going to have that one Jake. You're going to have that one Jake. Guess what? He not going to go back to his own people. You know what people he going to go to? He going to go to the oppressors people. He going to go to the so-called white man. He's going to go to his wife's family's house and be with them. All right, it's going to be madness. Everybody going to their own people, but you going to have that one Jake, man. And that one Eve, they're going to coon out. So the Lord said, every man, they're going to return into their own people. And if you don't, read on. Verse 15. Every one that is found shall be thrust through, and every one that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. So if you found in the race wars, which is another war that's going to take place, if you found in the race wars, on the other side, hey, the Lord said you gonna get killed, man. Whether that's in a famine, whether that's in war, pestilence, you get shot down. But it's a lot of wars that's gonna take place. You read about in 2nd Ezra chapter 15, the dragons of Arabia, how that Ishmael, he's gonna have the upper hand in World War III. Then you're gonna have Esau, then you're gonna have the EU, they're gonna rise up. Mentioned in Revelation chapter 17. You had the 3 heads in 2nd Ezra chapter 12. So it's a lot of wars that's still going to take place as we approach the second coming of Yahushua. Right? So let's go back to Matthew chapter 24. Right? Let's go to Matthew chapter 24. This is Matthew chapter 24 and verse number 8. Right? Matthew chapter 24 and verse 8. It reads, all these are the beginning of sorrows. So as Yahushua, as he's explaining this, one thing he's telling them, hey, guess what? This is just the beginning. This is just light work when these things happen. Stuff really hasn't hit the fan right now. Hey, that's what the Lord basically saying. Things haven't really hit the fan yet. These are the beginning of sorrows. Read on to verse 8. Right? Verse number 8. It says, then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. So during these times, as we hit the famine comes, the pestilence, false prophets, false Christ, wars, rumors of wars, you're gonna have, guess what? Certain men and women in this truth, they might be killed for the word of the Most High God. Right? They might be killed, man. Read 2 Maccabees chapter 7. And this is ultimately linking up with the 5th seal mentioned in Revelation chapter 6. Let's get that real fast. Revelation chapter 6 and verse number 9. So guess what? These things, hey, they don't go over this in the church. These things is actually in the Bible. This is the book of Revelation chapter 6 and verse number 9. And when he had opened the 5th seal, I saw under the altars the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. So guess what? Literal people, brothers in this truth, they might have to die, man. Now that it's not everybody's lot, right? Certain people that are still gonna be on lot, certain people that are not gonna taste death. But you're gonna have certain martyrs for Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. They gonna see you with your fringes on. And so, hey, anybody with fringes on, shoot them on sight. Right? Then you might get caught with your fringes on, they might shoot you dead, man. Right? Any brother we see out there teaching on our highways and byways, lock them up and take them to the FEMA camp. Then you get found out there, they're gonna lock you up, take you to the FEMA camp. Then they might have a guillotine. They might interrogate you for a little bit. They might beat you up. You might be in a chair like how I'm sitting right now. Right? Your hands might be behind the back. You might have tape on your mouth. Right? Then you might be screaming. Then they smack you and say, shut up. Then they take the tape off your mouth and say, guess what? You gotta deny. Hey, you believe in this man called Yahushua? Hey, certain brothers, they gonna say, yeah, man. Then other brothers, they gonna say, you know what? I don't know what you're talking about. Right? I'm not no Israelite. I was just doing this for fun. Then you gonna have other brothers, they gonna say, hey, yeah, I believe in Yahushua, man. Then they might get hit to the guillotine. So these things are gonna happen. The Lord already foretold us of this. Right? Let's go to the book of Luke. Let's go to the book of Luke, chapter 21 and verse number 12, right? It's saying the same thing, just different chapter. But this Luke chapter 21 and 12. But before all these, they shall lay their hands on you. So guess what? You in this truth. Hey, you got to prepare to get hands laid on you, man. Somebody might grab you by your shoulder, right? Somebody might grab you by the neck. Hey, you might get hands laid on you, man. We're not going to tell you that you're going to be untouchable, right? But the Lord, you want to make sure you mentally prepare for this. It says, then they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. So whatever mayor or governor that's in your city, that's how you might get. You might be in prison, man, for this truth. They might throw you in prison, lock you up, grab you up by a shirt, hem you on the wall, put you in handcuffs, torture tactics. Hey, these things are gonna take place. We reading about it in Matthew chapter 24. Reading on. And it shall turn to you for a testimony. Settle it therefore in your hearts, not to meditate before what ye shall answer. So when these things do happen, let's say hypothetically, you are one of those brothers that get delivered up. The Lord is telling you, don't premeditate on what you're gonna say. You're gonna have certain brothers, they're gonna be writing it down. You know what? When I get delivered up, I'm going to say, Kwam Yasha Allah Khan, right? No, brother, you don't want to, no, you want to have everything be on the spirit, right? You want to have certain brothers, you know what? I'm going to say this. I'm going to just quote the whole book of Psalms, chapter 23. Well, hold on, brother. The Lord said, don't meditate. It says, verse 14, settle it therefore in your hearts, not to meditate before what ye shall answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. So guess what? Don't think about what to say. The Most High, He's going to put it in your mouth what to say when that time's come. Just like Stephen. When those men was around Stephen, when you read Acts 7 chapter, hey, who had Stephen say all of that long things and start recounting those accounts? Hey, the Spirit of the Most High God, did, man. Yahweh Bashim Yahushua had Stephen. Stephen didn't study all of that just to say in that moment. Hey, it was the Spirit that had him say all of those things. Right? It reads, verse 16, and ye shall be betrayed both by your parents and by brethren and kinfolks and friends. And some of you shall they cause to be put to death. Ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. But there shall not an hair of your head perish, and patience possess ye your souls. See that? So what the Lord is saying is, you're going to be betrayed. You might be betrayed by your brother, man. Your brother that's not in the truth. Your mom that's not in the truth. Right? They might be in the truth, but your sister, your cousin that's not in the truth. And there's one brother I know, right? He told me he had a dream, right? That he was in his room. He was studying, and you had Esau banging on his door. And his mom opened up the door, and he always, I'm saying, he kind of get into it with his mom because he tries to break down the truth to her, and she don't listen. And his mom started to dislike him a lot. She say, hold on, you changed. What is that? I don't want this. She kicks him out the house, right? She hates him, right? So he said he had a dream. Esau was banging on his door. His mom opened up, and Esau said, where's that Hebrew Israelite? Or do you know this man right here? And she said, yeah, that's my son. He in a room right down the hall. And Esau came in and bust open his door. He said in his dream he had to open up the window and hide in the bushes, man. So guess what? Hey, that's found within the Bible. Now we don't know if that's true, right? We don't know if that's gonna happen, if that dream is gonna come to pass. Nevertheless, those different things might take place. The Lord, he told you before these things shall come to pass. Right? So let's go back to Matthew chapter 24. Right? Let's go to Matthew chapter 24 and verse 8. And ye shall be afflicted, and they shall deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you. And ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Meaning everybody's going to dislike you, man. Everybody's going to hate you, your parents, your boss. A lot of people are not going to dislike you. And we're not living in a time where we're all hated. It's people that love us, man. So it's going to come a time people are not going to like you. You have to be ready for other people to dislike you and the things that you do. That's a part of this truth, man. Everybody's not going to understand the decisions you make off the law, off the judgments. They may say, well, hold on, that wasn't a good decision. Why didn't you do things like that? Whole time, they don't understand, but you keep in sound judgment. A lot of people, they're not going to understand what you do in righteousness. Right? People, they're going to dislike what you do. They're going to say, you know what? Hey, you should just stop. Why are you a teacher? Stop being a teacher. Right? You had this one brother tell me that. He said, hey, why are you even out there on those highways and byways? You shouldn't even be teaching. Right? Guess what? You're going to have people, they're going to dislike what you do, man. People are going to hate you. These things, they're going to come to pass. And you have to make sure you're mentally prepared for that. Right? Reading on. Verse 10. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall arise and deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. So what it's saying is, since sin is going to increase more and more in the last days, the love of many is going to wax cold. Let's go to 2 Esdras chapter 6. Right? This 2 Esdras chapter 6 and verse number 24. 2 Esdras chapter 6 and verse 24. It says, at that time shall friends fight against one another like enemies, and the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein. The springs of the fountains shall stand still, and in 3 hours they shall not run. So during this time, you're going to have friends fight against one another like enemies, man. That person you call your friend, guess what? It's going to be made manifest that they're not your friend. You're going to have people in the world, friends since kindergarten, and they're going to turn. It's going to be a lot of betrayal going on in the last days. Right? Jake say he get betrayed by his homie. Hey, that's going to be normal, man. And that could be with anything. That might be a sister in the truth. She might betray you. Now, you can't say, you know what? I hate you, sister. What are you doing? I'm not going to forgive you. No, you got to forgive that. If she betrays you, you got to forgive that sister. But what you do, you have to think what the Lord said. The Lord said iniquity, sin is going to increase. And that love, that brotherly love that we used to have in the ancient world, because it's different from how it is now. In the ancient world, we was able to greet one another, whether they was a stranger or not. We was able to greet them. Hey, how you doing? Read Genesis chapter 19 and verse 1. How Lot greeted those angels and invited them in for dinner. We used to greet one another. What family thou art, what tribe you are. Hey, you want some unleavened bread? I'm finna go cook some up right now. Hey, have this banquet with me. Right? Hey, I got a place for you to stay today. And you don't even know. You just know that this brother's from the land of Manasseh. We used to have that brotherly love back then. But guess what? As time goes on, you can't do that now. You can't invite a random stranger in a hood and come over for dinner. And he might come over, you might get in the shower, and he might steal $20 from you, man. And you never hear from this man again. He might steal food out your house. It's going to be harder and harder as times go on to trust a lot of people. Why? Because sin is going to increase. Let's go to 2nd Esdras chapter 5. 2nd Esdras chapter 5 and verse number 2. Right, this 2nd Esdras chapter 5 and 2. And it reads, but iniquity shall be increased above that which thou now seest, or thou hast heard long ago. So you look at the accounts in the Bible, things happened aforetime, and you think sin was at an all-time high back then. Hey, guess what? In 2023, sin is not even at its all-time high yet. Because as years go on and time goes on, every day, tomorrow is going to be more sin on the earth than it was yesterday. And the next day after that. And the next day after that. So it's going to do nothing but increase until wickedness hits the heavens. The Most High has to execute judgment, and he's going to shut this place down. Right? And it's all in that order. Right? Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to the book of Mathew chapter 24. Hey, and that's another topic for another day. Nevertheless, we're going to grab some precepts on it. This Matthew chapter 26 and 47. It reads, and while he yet spake, lo, Judas, one of the 12, came, and with him a great multitude, with swords and staves, from the chief priests and elders of the people. Now he that betrayed him gave him a sign, saying, whomsoever shall I kiss, the same is he, hold him fast. For with he came to Yahushua, and said, Hail, Master, and kissed him. So this is going into when Judas betrayed our Lord and Savior. And Yahushua said unto him, Friend, wherefore art thou come? Then they came and laid hands on Yahushua and took him. So when all of this was happening, which Yahushua, we know that he knew. But the Lord said, hey, hold on. I thought you was my friend. Right? We labor together. What are you coming to me for? Who are you with? Hey, God forbid, but guess what? Realistically, it might happen to somebody in the truth. Right? They walk in together in Jacob's trouble. They didn't labor together. Right? But always at 2 a.m., the brother goes off to sneak into the mountains. And you don't know where he goes. Then one day he said, man, let's come in the mountains one day. Or he don't even got to say, let's come in the mountains. You wake up, then there's nothing but Edomites around you, which is the FEMA camps, and they ready to take you in. Then you walk in to the FEMA camp. Then you approaching the doors, and you see the same brother that you labor with. Right? It's going to be like that. What's that one movie, In Too Deep? You're going to be like Jay Reed, man. And LL Cool J. Right? When LL Cool J found out that Jay Reed, I believe that's his name, in the movie, when he found out that, guess what, he was the police, he said, hold on. He couldn't believe it, man. He was shocked. He said, hey, all I wanted to do was to be there for you. Right? Hey, man, that might happen. Right? Why? Because iniquity is going to be increased, and people, they're going to be betraying each other. Right? Let's get a couple more precepts. Let's go to Psalms chapter 41. Let's go to Psalms chapter 41 and verse number 9. John chapter 41 and verse number 9. It says, yea, my own familiar friend, in whom I trusted, which did eat up my bread, have lifted up his heel against me. So, hey, David said, it's some people, man, I trusted, but I got betrayed. I got backdoored. But as for us, Israelites, we don't want to have that mentality that we're going to betray somebody. The mentality that we want to have is that we're our brother's keeper. Let's go to John chapter 15. And the Lord described to us the ultimate love. This John chapter 15 and verse number 13. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. So us as Israelites that's knowing these precepts, that's watching this live, hey, guess what? We want to lay our lives down for our friends, man. We want to defend our friends until death, right? Till death do its part, till we can't anymore. The Lord said in Sirach chapter 22 and 25, I would not be ashamed to defend a friend. So we always, no matter if it's 1,000 Edomites around, no matter if it's peer pressure, if torture tactics are out, we always have to be defending our brothers and sisters until the death, right? Which is the ultimate love. Let's go back to Matthew chapter 24. Right, let's go back to Matthew chapter 24. Right? Keep this in mind again. Yahushua is telling them this all on the Mount of Olives. Right? This Matthew chapter 24 and verse number 13. It reads, but he that endureth unto the end, the same shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. Right? When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. And when the Romans came in and besieged Jerusalem, that was the second abomination of desolation mentioned of in the scriptures. So the Lord said, guess what? For the end to real be made manifest, everybody, this gospel got to be preached in the whole world. In Australia, in Canada, in Japan, right? Hey, even in Taiwan, man. In South America. Hey, if mankind could, even in Antarctica. This word has to spread throughout all the earth for a witness. Guess what? Then the end is going to come. Let's go to Romans chapter 17. It's like in Romans chapter 10. Let's go to Romans chapter 10 and verse 17. Right, this Romans chapter 10 and verse number 17. So then faith coming by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. But I say, have they not heard? Yes, verily, their sound went into all the earth, and their words unto the end of the world. So guess what? This word got to go into the ends of the world, man. Into the ends of the earth for a witness. Right? Let's go back to Matthew 24. Right? Matthew chapter 24 and verse 15 again. And when ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. So Yahushua was telling them, guess what? When this abomination and desolation come to pass, hey, you're going to have to be like a pilgrim, man. Right? Let's go to, real fast, let's go to 2nd Esdras chapter 16. Let's go to 2nd Esdras chapter 16 and verse number 40. O my people, hear my word, make you ready to the battle, and in those evils be as pilgrims upon the earth. He that selleth, let him be as one that feareth the way, and he that buyeth as one that will lose. See that? So and during these times, it was a horrible time during the Roman Jewish wars, man. Right? During 70 AD, the fall of Jerusalem. People were being killed. A lot of people were dying off through famine, starvation, hunger. So the Lord told these men during this time, when this stuff does happen, right? A flee to the mountains, meaning be as a pilgrim upon the earth. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. Now this also applies to us when Jacob trouble kicks off, man. We're gonna have to be as a pilgrim. We're gonna have to be on the go in that day, right? Whatever you have is what you have in that day, right? You don't have people going back to their house. No, I gotta get my gun, right? My AR-15. Hey, brother, you might have to be caught out there, cause you never gonna know where you're gonna be when these things hit the fan. Right now, you might be in Los Angeles, but who knows? 10 months from now, you're in the city of Arkansas, right? Or you're in the city of Miami. We don't know where we're gonna be when these things take place, right? Read on. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. It says, and woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. Now, again, this also applies during the time leading up to the second coming of Yahushua, when evils are multiplied on the earth and the great tribulation happens. Nevertheless, what he's saying here is woe unto them that are with child, and them that give suck in those days. Now, it's not saying that it's a sin to have children in those days. It's not saying that it's a sin to have children right now, leading up to those days. It's not saying it's a sin to have kids in Jacob's trouble. What it's saying is it's going to be a heavy burden if you do have children in those days. Why? Because anybody that has a child, you would know firsthand, that's a lot of responsibility, right? That's a lot of responsibility. That's a lot of that's time taken away from you. It's time consuming. It's not about you anymore. You have to fully set your mind on your children, on those kids, right? And guess what? It's going to be wild beasts out there. You're going to be amongst the elements, right? You might not have the resources you have right now. So you're going to be at a disadvantage if you having child or children in those days. That's what it's saying. You have certain by saying, no, Jacob's trouble come, you can't have no children. Well, hold on, brother. That's not what it's saying. The Lord said in Genesis 1:29 to be fruitful and multiply. Genesis chapter 9 and verse number 1. Right? Be fruitful and replenish the earth. Read on. Let's read on. Verse 20. It reads, but pray that your flight be not in the winter, neither on a Sabbath day. And we have to be praying for that as well. Because when all hell breaks loose, anybody that's been out there in the cold, that's not a place you want to be out there. It's no heat. It's not going to be heat. Your furnace might not going to work in those days. You're not going to have electricity to plug in your heater. And you're going to be out there amongst the elements. Might be 20 degrees, depending on where you're located. 15 degrees Fahrenheit. -1 degrees. Right? And it says, what else? It says neither on the Sabbath day. Why? Because the Sabbath day is a day you want to be sanctified. You want to sanctify that day. It's in our customs. On the Sabbath is the most holiest day. And you're out there on a go. You out there work. You might have to God knows what you're going to have to do in those days on the top of the Sabbath day at that. Right? It might be raining. You need somewhere to stay. But you don't want to be over righteous. It might be 7 degrees outside. But you don't want to be over righteous. You might have to build a fire to stay warm. These different thoughts might go through your head. So the Yahushua, he's telling you, guess what? You want to pray that your flight's not in the winter, neither on a Sabbath day. Right? Reading on. It says, "For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be." So the great tribulation is going to be worse than 70 AD. It's going to be worse than 1619. It's going to be worse than the Babylonian siege. It's going to be the worst time on the earth in history. Let's go to Mark chapter 13. Let's go to Mark chapter 13 and verse number 19. It reads, "For in those days shall be affliction, such as was not from the beginning of the creation of God, which God created unto this time, neither shall be." So you think the affliction you going through right now is something? Hey, hold on, brother. That affliction during the great tribulation, no man on the earth is ever is gonna experience something like that in history than when it comes to pass. So everything we're going through right now is ultimately is little. It's nothing compared to what's gonna come to pass. Right? Reading on in Mathew chapter 24 and verse 23, "If any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ," right? "Believe it not, for there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall shew great signs and wonders, and so much that, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they say unto you, Behold, he is in a desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. For his lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth unto the west. So also shall the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered after. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven shall be shaken." Right? So after the tribulation, the sun is going to be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. Now, what is that talking about? Is that literal? Right? The sun is not going to shine no more at all. It's going to be always, it's just going to be black. And the moon, guess what? It's not going to give her light. No, guess what? The sun and the moon represents wisdom, knowledge, and understanding according to the Bible. So the light, the wisdom of this world, of the so-called white man, all of that is going to be put out, man. Right? The Most High is going to do away with that. Only knowledge that's going to be out is these if you have it, it's these precepts. The knowledge of the Lord. It's not going to be Google's immediately after the Great Tribulation. Right? It's the stars literally going to fall from heaven. Right? All the stars in the sky, they just going to fall to the earth. No, that's not what it's talking about, man. We have to go through the precepts. We have to break down what this is talking about. So let's go to Micah chapter 3. Right? Let's go to Micah, the 3rd chapter. This is Micah chapter 3 and verse number 6. "Therefore, night shall be unto you, that ye shall not have a vision, and it shall be dark unto you, that ye shall not divine, and the sun shall go down over the prophets, and the day shall be dark over them. Then shall the seers be ashamed, and the diviners confounded. Yea, that shall cover all their lips, for there is no answer of God." So in those days, it's not going to be no wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the so-called white man here. Not going to have Google. Not going to have the social media platforms. Not going to have the web. Only thing that's going to be out is the knowledge of the Most High. And that's only to the men and women who already had it before. Right? Let's go to the book of Revelation chapter 12. Let's get a couple precepts on the sun and the moon. Right? It's Revelation chapter 12 and verse number 1. "And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Is this literal? A woman literally she clothed with the sun and the moon? No, but that sun and the moon represents wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. How bright it is. So it's saying the nation of Israel is clothed with the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the Most High God. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 30 and 26. Let's get another precept. Isaiah 30 and 26. It reads, moreover, the light of the moon shall be as the light of the sun, and the light of the sun shall be sevenfold, as the light of 7 days, in the day that the Lord bindeth up the breach of his people, and healeth the stroke of their wound. So when the Lord heals us and takes us back and turn back to the captivity, hey, that sun, the light of the moon shall be as the light of the sun. The light of the sun shall be a sevenfold. Meaning we're gonna have all the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding in the light, because the Lamb, he's our light. Right? So let's go to Revelation chapter 8. Right? So when it said, let's break down when it says that the stars are gonna fall from heaven. What's that talking about? 'Cause somebody might say that's literal. Right? Let's go to Revelation chapter 18 and verse 10. It reads, and the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. Now, is that literal? A star just gonna fall from heaven? Shooting star. No, that star is talking about the nuclear thermal missile. Because when John's seeing this, he can't say an ICBM. He don't know what an ICBM missile is. Only way he could describe this missile falling from the sky, hey man, it was like a burning star. That's all that John the Revelator knew back then. So that star, when the stars fall, it's talking about when those missiles hit the ground, man. When those missiles hit the earth. Right? It says, and the name of the star is called wormwood. Now, is that literal? Stars, literal. Now, yes, stars have names, but only the Most High knows those names. Right? That's Psalms chapter 147. Only the Lord in 5. Only the Most High knows those names of the stars, not man. Nevertheless, that wormwood that's the bitterness that's gonna come with that missile, according to the Bible. So the stars, that's talking about the nuclear thermal missiles. It says, renewing, and the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. Right? So those waters and those rivers represent what? Men. All of the Bible is very, very, very parabolic. All right? So when we go back to Matthew chapter 24, we go to Matthew chapter 24 and 29, it reads, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and they shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the glory of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather his elect from the four winds, from one end to the other. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender, and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So after the great tribulation, the destruction is gonna come. The Lord is gonna come back, gather his elect, right? Beating them up in the chariot and destroy the wicked. Now the parable of the fig tree, he's saying like certain trees, when they start to blossom and bloom, you know the seasons of the times. For example, when I go outside and I start to see that the leaves on the trees start to turn green, right? Different exotic colors, I know that summertime is approaching. When I see the leaves of a tree start to turn red, some of them start to turn yellow, some of them start to turn brown and orange, I know that fall is approaching. When there's no leaves on a tree at all, I know that winter is approaching. Right? Read on. So, like verse 33, so likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the door. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. Right? So that was Matthew chapter 24, right? Going into, again, the Olivet Discourse or the Olivet prophecy. We went into the parable of the fig tree. Most God willing, this video was edifying. Continue to read, pray, fast, and most importantly, beseech the Heavenly Father for his mercy. And with that, I'm going to say shalom.